morning.
Good morning.
Morning. I did some research and I looked up all major public transportation systems in the United States. And there's not one that does not pay for benefits and wages through fares. Not one. All major transportation systems are running on deficits. Transportation systems are like the fire department, they're like the police department, they're like public schools. They're a public good and a public investment. They don't run to make a profit. To expect fares and parking increases to pay for capital projects is naive. Major capital projects are paid for through grants, bond initiatives, taxes, grants from the federal government and the state government. They're not paid for through fares. It can't be done. Most riders would be priced out if you actually did that. A ride from Walnut Creek to the city would have to be $20 round trip now. The airport would be $40 round trip now. This decision that is being made was based on an opinion piece by someone who constantly attacks BART employees and BART in general. That writer also mentioned that the problem was due to 40 years of underfunding pensions and poor planning for upgrades and modernization. Maybe we should concentrate on that. Find out what happened. Why for 40 years this has been the case. So fare revenues are primarily used for operations in all major transportation systems. And whatever's left over, which is very little, goes to capital. During this time, when we gave up $100 million in concessions on the last contract in order to make up for a shortfall in the budget, management still kept receiving bonuses, which is a matter of public record. So what I don't understand is why management gets bonuses and COLA type increases and we're not deserving of them. Especially when, the fact is that ridership is at 400,000 people. But when you think of that, that's really abstract. What that means is you see a huge number of an increase in fare evaders, you see an increase in assaults, you see an increase in dissatisfaction because the trains are crowded, you see an increase in people complaining about huge dogs, bicycles being on during commute, and a host of other problems that come with that increase. We've lost control of the system, and that's clear. But who gets the complaints? It's the station agents, the system service workers, the train operators, the frontline workers. And we're made to look bad in the press. And this vote that we're deciding to make, this change that we're deciding to make, makes it seem like, well, these people don't deserve it, and we got to make sure we let the public know this was an opinion, an editorial. This is not the public that's speaking. We have no idea what the public thinks. Every survey that Bart does is flawed. 840 people decide that there should be fare increases, that they're okay with them? Out of 400,000 people? We should have gotten thousands and thousands more. Then we know what the public was thinking. I don't know if you're aware of all of the assaults that have occurred, the shooting at Richmond. the person that was killed in the elevator. You know, we've gotten to the point where if someone has a stroke, we don't even write a UOR. It happens all the time. And we have to deal with that. And if we ask for 3 days off, it's included in those absences that they write about in the newspapers. A lot of people here, a lot of agents, a lot of public. If you really ask them what they're concerned about, they're not concerned about the fare increases. They're concerned about a clean system. And if you want a clean, safe system, you're gonna have to treat the employees and pay them what they're worth, instead of damning them in the public. And it seems like the board and the district is complicit in that. I've already gotten people coming to me, insulting me because I make too much, I'm never there, and they've been misled. And we need to think more about this issue. Let's be realistic about what operations, what fares, you know, what the difference between the operation budget is and the capital budget. There's just no way you're gonna pay for billions and billions of dollars for new trains on the backs of the riders. And the amount that would go to the workers is always misrepresented. And this needs to be postponed, and we need to re-examine this issue in fairness to everyone, the public and the Bart employees.
Thank you.
Say good morning.
Good morning.
Still. I know all of you get prepped on events that occur in the district, and I know my brothers and sisters with ATU spoke at the last meeting about an unfortunate incident that happened in an elevator at Montgomery. But I know when we look in the news, and I'm not sure what you got in the prep, that maybe you didn't get sort of the full 360 view, because after ATU staff came to the scene, AFSCME staff came to the scene, our operation supervisors are also called in as incident commanders. They represent the line managers. So then we had ATU and AFSCME and the unfortunate patron stuck in the elevator, dealing with what was very obvious to all of them, what had happened. You know, at that point, I think the news just stopped, and I don't know what detail you got, but most of us would assume fire, rescue, hazmat came in, took care of the scene, got the elevator back in working order, and time went on. What actually took place was an AFSCME section manager was called in by our superintendent of power and mechanical maintenance and asked to get down into it and extricate the victim's remains in a manner that would restrict the physical damage to the elevator in the process. SEIU brothers, it was probably all men, were also brought in to help him. It wasn't outside staff. It wasn't fire, police, rescue. It was more of our union brothers and sisters that had to deal up close and personal. This is a letter of commendation that went out to AFSCME section manager Mike Rodriguez for what he had to do across 2 or 3 hours. I also spoke to Margaret Saget, who runs our employee assistance program, who was also on the scene and saw how all of these different employees dealt with this long process and the trauma and the stress it brought to them. This isn't anyone's typical job. This is not what they're paid for. In fact, I don't I don't know how you'd figure out what to pay someone for doing that. I don't know what you'd ask to be paid for that. But that's my point. Most of us aren't here just for a paycheck. Many of us could make more out in the private sector, but we choose to work here serving the public. So we're not here just for a paycheck, and we don't want to be viewed as if we are. So I see you your eyes kind of glaze over sometimes when my brothers and sisters get up and speak, to a sensitivity to the media exposure from 4 years ago and just in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And that's because we want to get through this negotiation dance as smoothly and as quickly as possible, because we want to get back to our jobs. Our job is part of the Bart family, and keeping Bart going and keeping it as the #1 transit agency. And we want you to keep this in mind, because it takes all of us to find success in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Good morning, and first and foremost, I'd just like to say thank you, sister, for your heartfelt testimony, and also giving us privy to that information. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, and I realize that it was very difficult for you to do while watching you, so thank you. Good morning, President Radulovich. Good morning, General Manager Grace Prunican et al. I'm Yuri Holly, ATU 1555, Station Agent Representative. I stand here on behalf of my members, pleading that you hear all of our concerns. From the week of March 11th through the 18th, we had 2 fatalities and an assault. March 11th, President Radulovich, the downtown San Francisco stations are overrun with the homeless. We had a fatality at the Montgomery Street station, which the young lady was giving information about previous to me. We had a fatality in a downtown station. Montgomery Station, a man setting up for the night in the elevator shaft. It took 2 agents 20 minutes to pry the elevator cab doors open and free the occupant, who could see the deceased's head through the top of the elevator as he waited in the cab to be freed. March 15th, Director Melee. We had 1 fatality at the Richmond station, where the agent was actually crouched on the floor of the booth as passengers fled from a spray of bullets. We saw your statement in the press. Are there any plans to increase safety, and do you intend to address the Richmond frontline employees' concerns with a response? March 17th, President Radulovich. Glen Park Station. Agent Rodriguez, punched in the eye by a ferry waiter, had to be rushed to emergency, suffered a black eye and other facial injuries. There are many hazards in the day, career, and life as an agent. It's discouraging to lay your life on the line for your employer and plead to your elected board and general manager for assistance and never receive a response. The only response we receive is negative press, further hindering us. I have observed the high level of security screening upon entering every board meeting